welcome to the Herald project. This is a 68 Triumph Herald 1360 bought by 1959 BB, and we're going to hopefully get it running to the point where it can be MOT'd. So first off, let's get the tyres pumped up and into the workshop. Bugger, that's new tyres then.
So one of the reasons the Herald 1360s, or any Herald, makes a brilliant starter classic is because of the way the bonnet opens, and you can get to everything in the engine bay really easily, including the front suspension.
This car is filthy. It's been off the road for some time. Spiders have been all over the engine bay. Damp, and maybe rodents, have enjoyed some of the luxuries of the interior.
So if we check the dipstick on this, it's got oil, it's a bit manky, there's enough of it in there, which for this purpose on this engine is perfectly good enough. Obviously if it was a more expensive engine, or you sort of cared about it a bit more, you'd probably do an oil change first. Then coolant, we are dry, so we need to top that up before we run it. For the time being, I'm just going to put plain water in there in case there's a leak, so we don't lose all the antifreeze. And then finally, on this type of carburettor, there's oil in the top of the dash pot, which controls the rev of the engine and so forth. And there's a little notch in there, which is the mark for where the oil should be, and it does that. So you can see there's a bit of resistance just to push the top of it home, and then it screws shut. Right, that's a shitter. The problem we have there is Triumph engines of this age use a mild steel water transfer pipe underneath the exhaust manifold, which goes from the water pump to the heater matrix. Unfortunately, being mild steel, over time these do rot out. They're impossible to see easily without removing. So the next thing we need to check is any obvious signs of damage in the engine bay, broken lines, that sort of thing. We can see that the front of the air filter housing has been damaged. I've got to spare one of those to put on. And also these breather lines and this fuel line are also quite badly perished. So I'll just whip those off quickly and slip off the bolts as I do so. You can see there the end of that is damaged, so we'll replace that with another one. There we are. And just put the breather pipe on as well. Which I usefully had already got cut to size. He says, not being able to fit it. Come on, there we are. So the next thing we're going to check on this is things around the ignition system. First of all, we're just going to pop all the leads off the plugs. We'll be taking those out in a minute and just sticking a little bit of oil down the bores to make sure the rings don't stick, and popping the dizzy cap off. says. I've been able to get his thumb in there. There we are. So the internals of the distributor look okay. They look quite well greased. Points and rotor arm and everything look in good condition. Although looks can be deceiving, you do hear virtually new items in this area failing. I can see though that the vacuum advance unit on this is damaged. That should be attached. So after I've taken the plugs out and got some oil down the bores, I'll pop that out, and I've got a spare one I'm going to put in. Although they are very similar, there are differences with the vacuum advance units, because these distributors were used on lots and lots of different British cars back in period, and the vacuum advance rate and the diaphragm strength and so forth is different in each one, but ostensibly they're the same unit, so it might not be perfect, but they are interchangeable to an extent. So, quick check on the first plug. You see it's very sooty. Doesn't look particularly old. It's a Unipar plug though, so it actually is probably ancient. See what the other ones are like. They don't look bad though, so I'll probably clean it up with a wire brush. They should go again, although maybe long term put a new set of plugs in. So whilst we've been taking the plugs out, we found that plug number 2 is very oily, and also the electrode on top is bent. Now this could have been installed poorly. Maybe someone's gapped it not particularly well, I'm not sure. Potentially though, it could be there's some internal damage in the engine, possibly pistons hit it or something like that. The oil, I would suggest, is possibly just due to it sitting over time. On my old 1360, the issue was more to do with rings going and letting too much oil through. So this is where the vacuum unit is damaged. There's a circlip on the back of the screw here which you may not be able to see. It's a very small circlip. Pop that off, undo the vernier adjustment, and then the whole lot slides out. However, as this one is broken, the front half of it just comes out anyway. Cool. So there is the replacement unit and what it's meant to look like. I'll just quickly clean it up before putting it in, as it's got a bit of muck on it, and we'll pop it back in the other distributor. Just like it probably says in the Haynes manual, fitting is a reverse of removal. So usually when you refit something, there's a bit more swearing involved. Pop the spring back on as well. Pull it back through, so the wheel is sitting behind the notch. Wind that in, wind your neck in, and try and fit the circlip, which I'm not going to do on camera. Right, let's see if she's got any life at all, or if this whole thing is a waste of time. We've got a couple of lights. The ignition switch is broken.
Yay!
Yeah. So now after changing the ignition switch again, we found one that works. So we'll just see if we can get the engine to turn over. It won't start because we've taken the plugs out. We'll just see if it turns over and if we've got any oil pressure. We have lights. Slightly sticky starter motor, but otherwise not bad. So we've had a quick look through the ignition components, reset the points, given them a bit of a clean up as well, put a new distributor cap on it because the old one was very badly chewed up. I've got a new old stock one, so I'll put that on and we'll see if we get some spark at the plug now. So this is genuinely our first attempt at starting this car. Let's see what happens. Dry. Try a little bit of throttle.